Welcome to the UBC Learning Circle, hosted by the Center for Excellence in Indigenous Health. I'm very excited to welcome Elder Gerry Oleman here to chat with us today about practicing ceremony over a distance and a little bit about his experiences as an elder during this time. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that the Learning Circle is hosted on the traditional territories of the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh people. And I would like to acknowledge and appreciate them for allowing us to operate on their territory today. Quick little introductions. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Cole. I'm from the Chowthil First Nation. I'll be facilitating the session today, which means that I'll kind of just be sitting and listening to our elder with all of you. Other Learning Circle team members kind of operating online today but not visible are Cynthia, our production coordinator. Quick moment before we kind of jump into it, Gerry, I just wanted to say for everybody that's watching today, if the topics we cover can sometimes be triggering, and I know in this troubling time that there are sensitivities that exist and around communicating about the pandemic. So if that's you for today, I would encourage you to please, engage in your self-care, whatever that looks like. If you have a support network, fantastic. Please make sure that you're able to utilize it alongside of our session today. So with that, with my bumbling, I'm going to pass the mic on over to our elder. Gerry, please take it away.
Oh, thank you. I call my young nephew Daily Cole. You know, it's so good to be here with the Learning Circle today. And at this time, you know, we're in these unique times in all of our lives. So I just like to start off with, I always like to start anything that I do with a ceremony, because ceremony is a spiritual or a public event, you know, that we become involved in life. So I just like to start off our little session here with a song that comes from the hummingbird. And this song is, will be giving thanksgiving first for Tamiu, which is a planet Earth that provides all of our medicine, food, clothing, everything we have comes from Mother Earth to survive on this planet. And then the second part of the song is to give thanksgiving for our friends and relatives. That's in Shnuknukwa. All of our friends that we met in our life that support us, and our family, and especially the ones that carried us when we were babies, so we could be here today. We're going to honor those ones with this song, all of the ones that touched you in their life. We're going to thank them this morning. So first off, I'd just like to encourage you to visualize yourself as a hummingbird and hover above the earth when you hear Tamiu, and find a place that has comforted you and give thanksgiving to that place. It might be on the water, on a lake or the river or the ocean, or it might be in the mountains or in the desert, whatever it is for you. Give thanksgiving today for that place that nourished you and calmed your spirit. And then when you hear in Shnuknukwa, you be the hummingbird that sees the ones that helped you and supported you, and you give thanksgiving to them today. Does it sound okay for that, Cole? Okay. Quish, Gal to milk. I love you. I love you. Oy, 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 Kukstum cow quills and snook nook what I love you. I love you. Oy, 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 oy,
That's awesome. That's amazing. Thank you, Gerry.
Kukstum Gallup and Snook Manitoba, Uchel Milcha, Kukstum Gallup, Dakota, Cree, Anishinaabe, Oji, Cree, Métis, and all the ones that come from Europe to settle in Manitoba. Gerry's coming to you from Brandon, Manitoba today. And I acknowledge the Uchel that's the original people from this part of the country. It's part of Mother Earth. I was thanking them for taking care of it in such a good way that we can survive here today. And I know that in some ways, this land has been abused. But I believe because of ceremony from the past, that this land was here to nourish everyone. So I just wanted to thank the relatives from this part of the land. They call Treaty 2, Treaty 4, I believe, but there's also the Métis peoples and other ones here in Brandon. So I just thank them and acknowledge them first, because I'm a guest in their land. You know, I'm an immigrant. I migrated from BC to here with my wife. And I'm just so thankful, and I'd like to thank Cole for inviting me here today to be with you. And I see names, I can see some names of people that I know, like Perry, you know, Tansy Perry, you know, and the people that all over that I can see on my screen on the side. But part of the topic I was to address today was about my wellness in the times of this virus. You know, and I have had pneumonia in the past, and walking pneumonia. So when I heard about the details of this virus, I could say I got paranoid. I don't want to get this because my lungs have been damaged by pneumonia in the past. So I take it quite seriously. But how do I maintain that wellness? How do I be well? Wellness is about the active pursuit of keeping your mind strong, your body strong, and your spirit strong. That's what wellness actually means. It's an active pursuit of being healthy. And being healthy means to have a strong mind, body, and spirit. So that's what I focus on even more so than ever. You know, for my mind, I'm constantly finding ways to stimulate my mind, not to get trapped. Like some of the things that tempt me are things like Netflix, you know, and different things like that. But if I get trapped in that, my mind's not always going to be stimulated. So I'll find ways to stimulate my mind. to nourish my mind, to bring excitement to my mind. And usually that's about learning new knowledge, new skills. So I'll watch YouTube videos from different speakers, different people from different cultures to stimulate my mind. And I read a lot and write and do Sudoku, to keep my mind active. So it's critical that we keep our mind active in these times, that I keep my mind active. And for my body, I keep my body nourished with good food. I will have the odd pop or some potato chips, but basically I want to keep with the veggies, the fruit, the good food to keep my immune system strong. I also chew on roots, like there's wonderful roots here in Manitoba, and I get them from different gatherings, bitter root. I chew that daily to help from my throat down. So I'll find medicines to take, and I have medicines that I'll make tea out of and I'll drink it. I burn medicine, and when I burn different herbs and plants, that's medicine that's released into the air, and I'll breathe it into my system. I'll put it into my ears. Like I literally take that smoke that burns, comes off, and I'll go like this, put it in my ears. I remember my granny done that once, and I had an earache. She blew cigarette tobacco into my ear, and it worked. I don't know if it was the tobacco or my grandmother's magic breath, but it worked. It helped my ear. So I was doing that with my ears because I had a little infection in my ear. I got what they call swimmer's ear. So if I get water in there, it gets affected. So I was putting smoke in my ears from the smudge. So I'll find ways to take care of my body too. If I feel some arthritis, I'll get an ice pack and I'll put it on there right away because there's an inflammation happening in my system. My granny used to use red willow. I'm going to harvest some of that this spring to keep on hand because I am starting to get touches of arthritis. So I'll take advantage of from my body of the medicines that are around. Plus I do stretching, some physiotherapy moves that I was taught in yoga and karate. I do san chin, and it's the first kata in the style that I learned of karate. And it's about breathing and how to move, to keep myself moving, to keep my body moving. Because I'm 71 now and I want to move like I can move now for many more years. So that's how I take care of my body. And I'm paying way more attention to it now that I'm trapped at home. I have more time to do it. And for my spirit, because remember, wellness is about the mind, the body, and the spirit. So for my spirit, I burn the medicines. I sing songs. I have different instruments that I use, like I have this rattle. And I'll sit and chant. An elder taught me a chant, and he says it's a prayer song or a protection against negativity. And I remember when I heard it, and it stayed with me. And I use that. It goes, hey yo, hey yo, oh, oh, hey, oh, hey yo, oh. And I share that with people. And that helps my spirit. Because remember, our spirit is what holds our body together. It's that magical event that happened when we're born into be a human being. The spirit come to our mother and father. And we started cell dividing in water. We could not exist without water. And we started cell dividing till we become who I become. And I need to have that spirit to do that. When that spirit leaves this body, Gerry's going to fall apart and go back into the universe. And my spirit will go to another place. So for my spirit, I use the medicines. I breathe it in. I rub it on my skin, and my hair, and my ears. And I take that medicine in for my spirit that's holding my body together. I need to keep that spirit strong. Because the indicators of a strong spirit is when you have an incredible will to live. It means you don't give up. If I lost that will to live, I'd go out. I wouldn't socially distance. I'd be reckless. I'd go out there. I don't care. But my spirit is strong. I want to live. I want to be healthy. And the other part about being healthy spirit is that I want to be successful. I still have that drive to be successful at whatever I do. Washing dishes, cutting wood, talking to people, listening to people. I still want to be successful at it. I want to be good at it. And the other part of having a good spirit is you have this kindness. You're kind to people, you're kind to yourself. When you have that kindness, people want to be with you. People respect you. It's like you're earning their respect because you're saying good words to them. You're talking nice to them. You know, so that's how I've been maintaining myself during this time. And it's up to notch. I do it more. I do it more carefully because of what's going on now. You know, I want to go back to BC. I want to go back to see people I know in BC.
We miss you.
Yeah, and to do that, I must take care of myself in those three areas of my life, my mind, my body, and my spirit. I want to go sing songs in BC. I want to go back there and dance. And to do that, I must maintain my strength. To do that, that's what I do now. I'm keeping myself strong for my friends and relatives in BC. When I go home, when I call home. So that's my day-to-day existence now in wellness in the coronavirus. I do get the coronavirus blues. You know, I want to go to Starbucks and have a venti, you know, caramel macchiato. You know, I want to sit down and read the newspaper in Starbucks and listen to people talk. I do get that feeling at times. But my spirit says, no, Gerry, you must take care of yourself. So that's what I do. You know, and it's, don't be reckless. I still have things to do. I know that in myself. To share with people, to be with people. You know, I still have that work to do. So as an elder, that's what I've been doing, you know, in my wellness plan. And I encourage everyone to have a wellness plan in those three areas. Because it's so tempting to just get into a total distraction. When that happens, if I just got into distraction, I wouldn't be developing. I'm continuously developing and growing. You know, like the elder told me, you never stop learning. You never stop being a student. Because the word student means a consistent observer, someone that watches and listens when there's someone speaking to see what we can learn from them. I'm still a student. I'll be a student all my life. And I also am blessed I get to teach too. That's what I feel I'm doing today. I'm laying teachings at your feet. And if you like them, you pick them up and you run with them and you use them. You know, like using our medicines, for instance, like the rat root, the sage, the juniper. I just love this fungus. I asked an elder, what's this fungus for? He says, oh, that's for your brain. Because our people knew there's medicine for every organ in our body in the earth. Every organ, skin, eyes, heart, liver, pancreas, brain. There's medicine in the earth for that. I had 4 sweats in a row, you know, for the, supporting the ones that are looking for the cure for coronavirus. I told my wife I'm gonna have 4 sweats. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, last week, to support the healers, to send them energy, you know, and feel like I'm contributing to the healing. And that's what I had done. You know, and I'll continue to do that. Every Sunday I have a sweat and I send energy. as part of my wellness plan. I'm so glad I have that. You know, I don't sit with people in the lodge because I know that's not safe. So I go by myself. I sit in there and I sing and I send energy and I take that heat in and the medicine and it helps me, you know, to stay strong. You know, there are times I've gotten depressed in this 4 months of shutdown. You know, wanting to go back to BC sometimes. Sometimes I get scared that I'll lose some of my relatives to this. But to maintain that strength, not to stop. I do the ceremony, which I'll talk about next. But so that's covers the first part, Cole, about me taking care of myself. So I don't know if you want to take questions and answers for that part now, or just move on to the second part.
We can take. We have a few questions that have already cropped up, and they're kind of they're just kind of they're short, quick questions.
Okay.
So we can go for there. So the first one I have here, right away, Perry asks, what makes an elder? And I think it's a good question to start from to contextualize the circle today and kind of why we're talking for everybody that doesn't know.
Yes, that's a very good question. Because in my view, there's elder and there's senior. And a senior is someone that's, let's say in society, they say over 65. That's a senior. Now, elders, to me, are the ones that absorb the teaching and share it, the teachings. Yeah, so an elder is someone that has been given teachings or gathered teachings for the people. Then they go share it with the people. That's an elder to me. Someone that has skills and knowledge and kindness, and they go share it with the people. Now, a senior, there's many seniors, and there's lots of good seniors, don't get me wrong, in the compare and contrast of elder and senior. There's lots of seniors that can share practical ideas and knowledge, but elders carry cultural knowledge, their culture, their way of life, indigenous knowledge. There's seniors that can carry Christian knowledge, that's not indigenous. Like I carry Statlium knowledge as well as Coast Salish and other nations that have shared knowledge with me. And I share it with people too. But I don't say that I'm Anishinaabe or whatever, I'm Statlium. And I'll say, oh, I learned this from that man over there. Like I learned about medicines from a man from a Blackfoot man. You know, and he was teaching about medicines. So I share the knowledge about those medicines that he shared with me. So that's an elder, someone that shares to help the people.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Gerry. So we have a few more questions here. And the first one comes from Neil. And he said, very grateful for the circle today. Thank you, Elder Gerry, for this time. He expresses that he misses you here in Vancouver. He's with the Indigenous Health Team at St. Paul's Hospital. He's also from the community in Nova Scotia. He says NS, but I assume it's Nova Scotia that was devastated this weekend by violence.
Yes.
Do you have any messages for patients of our hospital or his community in Nova Scotia to give them comfort during this time?
Yes, you know, I've been to Truro, Nova Scotia, and Halifax, and different reservations, Shubenacadie, and places in Nova Scotia. When I heard of what happened, you know, and you know, the message for those ones, and as well as for patients, I usually say to the patients, I know you didn't ask for this. I know you didn't ask for this cancer or whatever it is you're afflicted with. And I say that to them so they won't blame themselves. And I know what happened in Nova Scotia to the people, they didn't ask for that. No one in their right mind would ask for that, multiple killings. And I would say to them, you tie yourself together now, which they are, I see they are already doing that. in Indigenous way, they say, tie yourself together now. Because you don't want anybody to drift away on their own and suffer by themselves. We must tie everybody together. And I literally say tie, but it means, to connect with one another, to keep in touch with one another, and to communicate with each other. I phone, if you know someone in Nova Scotia, phone them and say, oh, hey, I'm just phoning to let you know I'm here. To let them know there's somebody with them. One of the bad feelings in life is to feel all alone, when in times of crisis or trauma. So it's good, like Elder told me, when things like that are happening, something happens, you go over there. And now we do it virtually like we are on Zoom here. And you let them know when we can go there in person, you can go to them and say, I'm here. If you need a hug, I'll give you a hug. If you need to talk, I'll listen. Other than that, I'm just going to be here even in silence just to support you. That's such a wonderful way. I was taught this by an elder from Tsleil-Waututh. He says, if somebody's really suffering, Gerry, you go over, be with them. And let them know right away, I'm here. If you want a hug, I'll give you a hug. If you want to talk, I'm going to listen. Other than that, I'm just going to sit with you. And I've done that ever since he told me, and it works. So he sent virtual hugs to Nova Scotia. You listen, you talk, you phone, or Skype, or Zoom, or FaceTime, and listen to them, giving them a chance to talk. When this happens, I found that nowadays we lose patience, or we're growing up a different lifestyle. But if you go sit with somebody and you give them those messages, I've sat with people. I was sitting with a young man, his sister murdered somebody, and he was traumatized. He was withdrawing. So I went to sit beside him and I said, I'm here. If you need a hug, I'll give you a hug. If you need to talk, I'll listen. Otherwise, I'm just going to sit here with you. So I sat there, it must be 5 minutes. Then he starts talking. He's saying, I don't know what to do. I don't know what people think about me and my sister, my family. So he started talking about his fear. And counselors know, as soon as someone starts talking, disclosing what's making them feel bad or causing suffering, that 50% of the stress leaves that body once they're truthful with somebody else. So that's what I would suggest we do with the ones in Nova Scotia. And with the patients, I can only imagine the fear they have being in the hospitals and things, wondering if they're going to get the virus. It's just I think about that. I thought about it in the times when I see people supporting them by banging pots and pans and tooting horns. That actually brought tears to my eyes. That there's nurses and doctors that are being supported. I tell the patients when I used to go to the hospitals, you become an active participant in your healing. You listen to those doctors and nurses. You participate in this healing, and if it means distancing, you do that. No matter how uncomfortable it is, you don't go out in that hallway. If they tell you to stay there, you stay there. It's really important that we learn how to listen now, all of us. Total listen. When the ones that know, the knowledgeable people that talk to us, the ones that really know. There's a lot of people now that will say things but they don't really know. Like me talking about the virus, I'll make sure I'll say, I know that it will live on a surface, like on a surface of my computer here. If that virus lands there, I was told it can live up to 72 hours on a solid surface. That means if it's sitting there for a day and I go touch that surface and I touch my eyes or my mouth, it's going to enter me. I believe that because a professional, gave that message. So I believe that. So that's why the patients, we tell them now is the time to listen. And it might get more uncomfortable for you. But this is for your good and for the good of everyone. It's like that saying, the honor of all is the honor of one is the honor of all. The safety of one is the safety of all. They can help in the hospital as patients, by listening. And also, the next part of my talk here is going to be about doing ceremony. And I would like more people to start to do that. So when I get a chance to talk about that, I'll share that.
Yeah, absolutely, Gerry. Thank you. Thank you for that. And yeah, I agree. I think it's important for us to recognize and acknowledge experts at this time, right? Whether it's an expert like an elder or a knowledge keeper, or a doctor or a health professional, right? I think now is actually a really good time to pivot, and let's chat about ceremony at a distance.
Okay. First off, ceremony is an event that human beings do. And it either can be a spiritual event, a religious event, or a public event. So a public event is like graduation ceremony. Oh, our children walk across the stage with those robes on and we cry, that's a good ceremony. Because they've gone through 12 years of school, 4 years of college or university, and there they are. That's a ceremony. That's a public event ceremony. Then religious ceremonies to me are like Catholic, Muslim, those kinds of things, where they have a belief and a faith. Then the spiritual ceremonies are ceremonies to nourish the human spirit, to heal the human body, mind, and spirit. That's what the ceremonies are for me in the spiritual realm. And that we can do this. Like I do a ceremony every day. When I light my smudge bowl, the medicine, and take it in, that's a ceremony. And it's something I'll do consistently. So we can do that, and as soon as we help ourselves, we're helping our relatives and our friends, because we're strengthening ourselves. I used to wonder why my aunties used to laugh, and they have sparkly eyes, and they say, "Oh, where are you going, son?" "Oh, I'm going to have a sweat." And they'd laugh, and they'd be happy, and they'd say, "Oh, good." And I figured it out later, they knew that at some point I'm going to pray, I'm going to send energy to them through prayer or through music. Because during ceremony, there's a part in there for the female energy. And that's all of the females that are our family and our friends. I've been sending energy to when the females, to the researchers that are looking for a cure, women, or the woman doctors, the woman nurses, the janitors, the cooks, all those frontline workers in a hospital that are female. I'll send energy for them through ceremony from a distance. And because our thoughts are energy. Even because every thought you have is a muscular reaction in your body. If you're panicky, your tummy, you'll feel in your tummy like butterflies in your tummy. And your breathing will be affected. You might start hyperventilating or suffocating by hardly breathing. So every thought creates an action in our body. So when we think of other human beings, like say that are in Nova Scotia, and we think positive things to them, that energy goes through the air to them, or through the earth to them. If you're in the sweat lodge, like in the sweat lodge, all those willows are in the earth. So it's part of the earth. And the energy from there travels through the earth. That's how we can send, in ceremony, send help to loved ones or people that like now, I don't know those doctors that are working in frontline, but I send them energy, because they're putting their life on the line. We need to do what we can do. And that's what I do, and it's, so I can do that sitting in Sweat Lodge or sitting in front of my smudge bowl or standing outside underneath a spruce tree. I can put myself in that state of sending energy. But the way that I started, I wasn't always like this. The way I started, I always had to have a smudge bowl or a sweat lodge before I thought I could do ceremony. But now I've come to the belief that Indigenous people lived ceremony life. When they have a drink of water, I seen an elder like this. I said to one of the aunties, how come the old man's got that glass of water to his forehead? She said, he's talking to the water, thanking the water for his life. And she says, she knows him. And she says, also, he's asking that his grandchildren, great-grandchildren have water too. So that was the ceremony, the drinking the water ceremony, I feel today that to put ourselves into the state of ceremony is critical. Remember, it's a spiritual, public, or religious event. So when we're into a spirit mode of other people's spirit, because everybody that's walking around today have a spirit. If it's weak, they don't have that will to live. They're reckless. They say, oh no, I'm gonna go out and demonstrate, open up the business. To me, that's a sign of a weak spirit. It doesn't really want to live. My spirit was very weak when I was addicted. When I was into alcohol and drugs, my spirit was weak. In a sense, I didn't want to live. It was a slow suicide drinking. I'm not ashamed to admit that, because that was real. And I had to beat that. And what pulled me out of it is ceremony. Consistent ceremony. Not when I need it, but do it consistently. And ceremony is about asking for help, appealing sincerely for help around a specific issue like coronavirus, grief and loss, or celebration. Oh, all of a sudden my children got a name in the longhouse or in the community, they got an Indigenous name. That's a celebration ceremony. Or coming of age, that's one that I pray that will come back. And we do coming of age with all of our ones that are going to become men and women. I really pray hard that comes back eventually, because that ceremony, I feel, prepares those ones to be men and women. Because my view today is that we got a lot of 25, 30-year-old people still acting like kids. Because I know I come from that too. I didn't go through puberty ceremony until I was 27 years of age. It's not too late to do those things. I had to go look at myself to see what my purpose is in life. Why am I here? So I do that in ceremony, isolation ceremony. There's ceremonies where there's 500 people in a room, 20 people in a room. Then we also do our own individual ceremonies. And that's what I'd like to encourage people to do, to find a way. You can ceremony with the 5 elements in mind. Fire, you can light a candle. You light a candle for those people in Nova Scotia. That's fire. Not about Christianity, it's about fire. You can put down a bowl of water for the people in Nova Scotia or wherever, because water is life. You think of those elements and how to use them, like the plant that comes out of the earth. We could put that down like sweetgrass, cedar, sage, hemlock, all of the medicines. You can put that down, and it's like creating a sacred space for ceremony. I know people that light a candle and they're in ceremony. When I light my smudge bowl and I sit and meditate, I'm in ceremony. I encourage people to find a way to develop your way to ceremony, because it's about helping others. Being compassionate, that means you're a willing participant with other people's suffering. If someone is depressed, you'll go participate in a way to try and help them out of that. If someone is angry, you'll try to help them. You'll send energy to them. That's what I do. I pray. When I send energy, I say, I want teachers and healers for my grandchildren, because I can't see them now. So I want teachers and healers to come into their life. I'll send that energy through the air. Like my podcasts are called Teachings in the Air that I do. And that's what it's referring to, that everything we have comes through the air for us as human beings. The medicines come through the air to us, and they become part of our body. Just like food, like deer meat becomes part of my body. So I learned to respect the deer meat, the salmon. When I first started doing ceremonies in 1976, I kept expanding, because all the ceremonies were about myself when I first started. Keep me sober. I don't want those drugs. I don't want that booze in my system. That was my ceremony. After I got stronger, then I started to think of other people. Then I start sending energy to my loved ones, to my friends, or if someone makes a request to me. People have asked me to send energy to mothers, women that want to have a baby. So I do that. And the requirement to do ceremonies is to be sincere. It means mean it and believe it. Mean more, especially, is mean it, what you're doing. I'm really sincere about this. That's what you say to you. That's what the energy is about you. You're sincere. You're not lying. You're not making up. You're doing it. Yeah. Okay, maybe we can get some questions if there's.
We have an avalanche of questions, Elder. Okay. So I'll start listing them off here. So. So one of the first ones is a little bit more specific, and it comes from Janet, and she says, "Good morning, Gerry. You spoke of chewing on bitter roots." Janet just wants to know what is that specifically?
Bitter root. It's I get it from the Northern Cree people, and this is where I talk about my love for bitter root, but to say I've never harvested it. So I've never seen them take it. But I have bitter root here and I chew it. And that's where first I used to think it's just for singers, people that are singing. And I use that for singing. And also I feel it helps my, the phlegm lining in my throat throughout my lungs. It keeps it clear. Just like mullein does that too. It dissolves phlegm in your lungs if you're getting accumulation there. That it keeps that clear. That bitter root or rat root, I call it rat root. And so I chew on that. And the main part is because I had the walking pneumonia before. So I want to keep my lungs clear. Because before, I just almost like a smoker. You could hear me cough once in a while, like a phlegmy cough. But I use that medicine, it's not there. Yeah.
Awesome.
And
Thank
I
you,
think
Gerry.
that bitter root that I'm talking about, there's probably, I know there's some called bear root and bitter root, rat root. The ones that I know comes from the water lily root. So you have to get it in the water. There's another root that I use that I got from the Okanagan. I think the only time they dig it is in the nighttime. Or if they're digging in the daytime, they cover themselves with a blanket to dig the root out. You know, and, so, but I use that as a tea too to help. Another really good one is chaga, and it's to help with anti-inflammatory. And I take that now when I get flare-ups of, I had gout, and I used that, and it's anti-inflammatory, and it's off the birch tree. You know, that part that grows off the birch tree. Really good medicine.
Awesome. Thanks, Gerry. So we have another question here. What can we do to celebrate the hard work of frontline health workers to show appreciation from afar? And I think we kind of talked about a little bit about that, hey, about participating in ceremony and sending good energy when possible. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that, Elder?
Well, I feel that this, you know, this statement, the more the merrier, is to get people involved with you. Like I know on Vancouver Island in Victoria at 7 o'clock every night, there's people outside banging pots and pans to thank the frontline workers. You know, and I heard that, I got tears, but I said, oh my gosh. Then I seen the police cars and stuff in St. Paul's Hospital in Vancouver going by with their lights flashing, their sirens on, giving thanks to the frontline workers. And I feel we can do this. Like if you get a Facebook group of friends or whatever, and you start drawing posters or you start singing together, chanting together, and let everyone know it's around you, this is for the frontline workers. Because even if the frontline workers don't hear you, my belief is that they'll feel it when it's sincerely coming from you and your group. You know, every bit of energy you put out is not wasted. It travels. So my hope is that more and more of us do ceremony, for instance, that we sit down, we light a candle or the smudge or in front of a bowl of water, or, you know, and send energy to the healers. Because the doctors and nurses are healers. And the ones that are looking for the cure, they're healers. Send energy to them. But I really encourage you to, even if it's just two of you, say, okay, let's go outside. We're going to sing a song for frontline workers, and then announce it, and then go out and do it. That would help.
Awesome. Thank you, Gerry. So for everybody that's following along, we have many questions, and I'll try to get as many of them as I can. We're just gonna go through them here.
Jim Herbert raised his hand, whoever that. I see that in my screen.
Yeah. So we have a question from Cher. She says, many thanks for lifting us up and sharing your teachings. I wonder how I, as a non-Indigenous person, can support my graduate students to find medicines to make their spirits strong during this difficult time. So I you know, again, as a non-Indigenous person, how could Cher support her Indigenous graduate students during this time to find medicine and be strong?
You know, that medicine doesn't know color. And every medicine that comes out of the earth is for a human being. And the big thing that stops us from using natural medicines for Indigenous people is that at the very beginning of our contact with Europeans, it was identified as a devil's tool, the medicines that we're using. And so I really appreciate that question, because the biggest way she can do it is say, I believe in what your people used. So I encourage you to go back to it. Find out how to use it, how to harvest it, where to get it. If you can trade for it, trade for it. But start to use it sincerely. It's like the sweetgrass, you know, or the sage or the juniper. To me, juniper is a magnet for negativity. So when I burn juniper, it's to get negativity out of my mind or out of my body, or to protect me from negativity, to make a shield against negativity. So that one, I tell this to nurses and doctors, you know, and I say, you know, when you go work with Indigenous people, you tell them that what we used before was effective, that you believe that. Because we're very healthy people before contact. Very healthy, strong in our mind, body, and spirit. To know that men in the plateau were running down moose on foot and slicing their tendons with a sharp, razor sharp piece of flint to feed the people. To do that, you have to be very healthy. To know that people on the West Coast were hunting whales off canoes made without metal. That person is very healthy. To walk up the mountain and come back with tons of berries for the winter, those people were healthy. You know, but what we got, the assimilation process was to absorb us into civilized European lifestyle. Some will argue it wasn't civilized, but I know there was civilness in there amongst themselves, but we got excluded. But we're not anymore. There's no law that stops us anymore. But I really encourage white Canadians or people that aren't from Canada to support Indigenous people and let them know, you know what, if you do that, I don't have any kind of negative feeling to you or anything. Just please do it because I know it works for you. It'll work for them too.
Awesome. Thank you for those words, Elder. I appreciate it. So our next question from Peter: do you believe at this time of the virus, that we are able to raise up with our ceremony? And I think what Peter is asking is, you know, given how much time that we have for introspection, because we're all self-isolating, is it time for all of us to kind of reconnect and try to place the importance of ceremony into our lives again?
Yes, I believe that this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for people to start to learn their language. Like I've been telling families, you know, half an hour every day, get auntie or uncle to phone you and put them on speakerphone and start to have them speak the language so we start to learn it. You know, like there's teachings in that language. I could just hear my grandmother, she's telling me in her grandmother voice, don't you say bad words to people, son. She's saying, because that will hurt us. It'll hurt you eventually if you use bad words against people, because they're going to come back at you. You know, so we can start to, I'm so happy about this webinar because it's about ceremony. And my dream is that we all start to ceremony again when we have a glass of water, when a baby's born, you know, in times of funerals and things, that we ceremony together and we feel it. For a ceremony to be real, for me, means we must feel it. It's not a walkthrough. We're participating, we're active participants, and we feel it. Even if we're just sitting there listening, we open ourselves up to feel it. And I think this is we can do that now by having webinars like this and listening to other elders talk about the importance of this ceremony. You know, the assimilation was so brilliant. Because in 1965, I'll pick 65, there was not one hand drum song being sung in my community. Not one. It wasn't until 1976 that they start to come out again. Maybe a little bit earlier, when they say the eagle landed on the moon, people started picking up our ways again. You know, so I feel that now is the time because we can talk to our children with our creation stories, how to train stories, that we can do this now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Elder. Sorry about that. So, okay, another question. So Jane asks, I have adopted the smudging practices to help my wellness and Red Road of Healing, but I have been criticized for using another cultural teaching. I was not always connected to my cultural roots, have lived away from my family, community, and ceremony practices, as so many of us have been, thanks to the efforts of colonization. Also, I was working on my broken spirit and the hurt my community had contributed to my brokenness. I found other teachings that helped heal my spirit. What do you have to say to others in a similar situation as my experience? So I think to kind of paraphrase what Jane's saying here is that she utilizes smudging and other teachings on her own kind of internal road to wellness. And she just wanted your feedback on that, Elder.
Yes. You know, I've been to communities where people say, oh, our people didn't smudge. You know, and I know that's a problem, gets to be a problem, you know, because of our different lifestyles. Like some people are on the ocean, some people are on the plateau in the mountains, and some are in the prairies. You know, we all come, and one of my elders said, the language changes with the vegetation. Things change depending where you're at. But, you know, like, if we look at smudging as a religion, I can see how people can criticize you. But I say, don't look at it as a religion. Look at it as a way of nourishing your spirit. And you'll use whatever works for you. And I encourage you to do that. I use sweetgrass today, and my people then use sweetgrass in Seton Lake, my community. But I'll still use sweetgrass because it works for me. I call it the kindness medicine. If I feel a little negative, I'll light the sweetgrass and I'll smell it. Oh, I start to feel better already. You know, so I know this appropriation business. This word is out there. You know, and one of the elders from up Northwest Territory said, he was in one of my podcasts, and he says, well, my view is, he says, if you're drowning in a river and you don't like white Canadians, when they throw you a life ring, are you going to bat it away? You know, of course not. You're going to grab it because you want to live. Doesn't matter who throws it. To me, the spirit has no color. The medicines don't know color. The smudging is strengthening you. By all means, anyone do it. I believe all cultures in the world would burn something to get the medicine out of it. When I'm burning sage, if I just use sage, for me, it's for my body to open it up to release things like cold and stuff like that. Juniper is about negativity. Fungus is for my brain. Cedar is for my spirit. There's different, like I say, there's medicines for everything in our body, including our spirit and the earth. So how can someone deny you from using medicine that's going to help you, is my question. And from my view, those people got a small view, narrow view. And it's sort of almost unsanctimonious, like holier than thou, you know, and I know we're all susceptible to that. You know, we can turn on each other really quickly. In 1976, I started, 78, I started using Sweat Lodge, my own. I built my own. And the church and the priest that used to come to our community said, there's someone here wants to go back to the old ways. And he says, that's not our way. You're now following Christ. So I discourage that. And I went up to my sweat lodge the next day and somebody fell a tree on my sweat lodge. So we can turn against each other, even as Statlium people or Cree people or Anishinaabe. But to me, how you nourish your spirit is not my business. I'm willing to share with you how my spirit gets nourished. But if you find a way that it works for you, I got no right to criticize you. In fact, I'll be happy for you because you're doing it consistently with the good intentions. You're sincere. Yeah. This part sort of gets me upset sometimes when I hear people criticizing people for using medicine. That helps them.
Yeah. Yeah. Ultimately, our journey inward and everything that comes along with that, it is deeply personal, right? It doesn't really matter how you get there. What matters is if it works for you. Thank you, Elder. Mm-hmm. So we're switching gears a little bit here, and we have a question from Priscilla. And Priscilla says, I coordinate the elders in residence program at Aboriginal Health, so Vancouver Coastal Health. Many of our elders are eager to get back to supporting our community and our various clinics. How can I support them as they transition into providing virtual care and support? What considerations should I take or should I make? So I think, like, generally, what would you suggest to other elders that are looking to still provide that wisdom and that knowledge, and even just providing their presence to people in this time when they can't physically be there? What would be your words of advice to other elders?
My word of advice is to reach out, is to let people know, that realistically what you can share. But some elders, they're really hurting. They got arthritis, they got whatever. But to let people know, I'll give you an example. If they say, listen, I'm willing to tell stories for half an hour a day. I know lots of stories if they're a storyteller, to reach out. And I'd also encourage elders, and I think a lot of them would be okay with this, is to allow yourself to be videotaped telling a story, creation story. Because I love telling stories. And I tell people, my TV and radio when I was a small child was my grandmother telling stories. We didn't have what we have today, and I remember those with such fondness, the stories. So I think of elders have stories and knowledge to share. If they find one person to say, listen, can you let the people know I'm willing to do this? Because they're not going to be found on their own. You have to I think we need to send a message out that, hey, I want to teach. I started doing that. I got people now that I talk to about how to do things. I was at Summer Science with you guys last year, and I was wanting to teach how to build a sweat lodge. Because I say, this could not only be a sweat lodge, it could be a dwelling, it could be a place for smoking salmon. There's many uses you can do to learn how to build a structure. And as an elder, I want to do that. And I think it'll be, we changed with society. We can't help it. We're overwhelmed. But I know good workers. I was working with some elders in Broadway in Vancouver. They were in the center. So I go in there and hand drum songs and sing for the elders. But they would tell me stories too. It was a give and take. But the reason that happened is because that young woman that was working with them heard me speak and said, can you come talk to our elders? I said, sure, because I was a young elder then. I want to hear these elders, or to me, they're real elders. And sure enough, they were there. They could tell me stories about ceremonies. One guy says, I'm composing music for a potlatch. I go, whoa. So I'd sit with them, and so sometimes they need a guide. a young person that goes out for them and say, look for students for them or whatever it is, and that's what that young woman was for me. She heard me and said, can you come? And she would give me a gift, and I go talk to those elders once a week. And we'd have wonderful lunch. She was a perfect person for elders. Elders sometimes they get cranky and they get, because they ache, and stuff like that. And they can't move like they used to. And she would just sort of laugh it off or, push it away and say, come on, eat. I want to fatten you up. You're getting too skinny. She'd say, talk like that to some of the elders, and they would come and eat. This relationship building is important. There's a thing called ageism now. We can see it with the coronavirus. Like the elders are put away somewhere. And some saying they're not taken care of well. They're not treated like a treasure. And I can see that. But also some of them would have never survived that long if that center wasn't there. They are getting help. Maybe it's not top quality help, but us as families, we need to go in there and help too when the coronavirus isn't here. Because it's like I see that with our kids with the education system. Okay, you guys teach our kids for 12 years. Then we don't teach them. That's wrong, because I fell into that. My parents fell into that. We must take responsibility to help the elders feel purposeful. Say, oh yeah, if you can even tell one story, that'd be good. Or if you know about medicine, or whatever it is you want to share, as long as it's positive. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Elder. So to kind of to sum that up, I guess, elders need support. They need a helper of some kind. They need to have a relationship in place to do that work. And particularly when we're talking about transitioning to a virtual space, you would suggest elders be very upfront with what they could and could not do over that medium to make sure that everybody feels good about participating in that circle, in that dialogue, or whatever it looks like. For me, it's a circle here, but it could be different in different communities, right?
Yes, because everybody's energy is different.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know when I get to be 85, my energy is not going to be like today. It might be.
You never know. You
never know. I might even start to get younger. I don't know. I'm working at it.
Keep doing that yoga. You'll be younger than I am soon.
And my kata.
Yeah. Awesome. So we have one or two more questions before we run out of time here. So this one is a good question from Gail. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Elder Gerry. Ceremony is so important for our healing that was taken away due to the negative effects of residential school and intergenerational trauma. Gail's question is, Indigenous women already were facing high rates of family violence before COVID-19 came into effect. And now women may be locked down with their abuser with nowhere to go, limited resources, and many places are closed. How can Indigenous women and children find a way out of this dark place if they are stuck in a bad situation? Do you have any wise words, kind words for that?
Yes, when this started, my mind got a little panicky. Because I know this is real, like murdered, missing Indigenous women, violence against women, it's very real. And I'm so sad it's happening, but it's easy for me to say be empowered, but the one thing I say is what my elder told me. He says, Gerry, if someone steps on you and you don't make noise, they're going to keep stepping on you. So the thing to find is the right noise. Who do you talk to about this? You talk to the ones that know how to handle this. As Indigenous people, we tend to mistrust professionals. because of residential school in the 60s scoop and, Indian hospitals, all of that, we tend to not trust professionals. But we must start to, I think, like my granddaughters and daughters, they must make noise if they're being abused. To me or to someone else that can do something. If we just make noise to people that can't do anything, it doesn't change. This is one of the saddest things to me. I've seen it in my life. I was 5 or 6 years old, and I see my auntie getting beaten, and nobody's raised a hand to stop my auntie from getting beat up. I see her face swell up. Traumatized me. I call it the crazy new way of life for Indigenous people. That never used to happen, in my view. If it did, people were dealt with right now. You don't treat life givers like that. So I say to, I tell people, I got 4 relatives that were murdered, women. I know how real this is. And I know that all of us men must do something too. We must make noise too. We must let people know this is unacceptable. Otherwise, we're just bystanders. We're not allies to the life givers. It's hard to be physically threatened and bullied on a daily basis. I know that because that's what happened in residential school. So I'm really glad for this question, that you don't give up, you find a way to be safe with your babies and yourself. Sometimes you have to walk and leave that one. Sometimes you have to make noise and that person's going to go to jail. Maybe that's what will help them. Because one of the things I know, most women got the mother instinct and they even worry about the abuser. I was helping a student in Vancouver who was going to BCIT. Her man was really abusive. So she told me one day, she made up her mind, I'm going to leave him. So I said, okay, that's good. Yeah, I see her, she's got her head down. I said, what's the matter? And she said, I wonder who's going to look after him. And I was sort of shocked. And I said, he's a man. He's not going to starve. That shows the depth of the life givers' worry about human beings. Even if they're being abused by one, they still will worry about that one. It just shocked me. I mean, that I remember. So she left and she became successful. It was a big decision for her. I know it is. We must make noise. We must sit down as society, as communities and families, and talk about what's not acceptable. Every one of us that have little boys, if we see them hitting a little girl or their mother, we must stop them. Say, no, we don't do that. There's zero tolerance for males to strike women. Doesn't matter what age you are. Because that little boy can become a man. And if he gets away with it and he's young, he'll grow up that way. So as society, we must say, this is totally not acceptable. I got so fed up with it in my life. In 1993, I was walking around saying that Indigenous men don't have balls. Holy cow, some Indigenous men almost beat me up. They say, why do you say that? I said, as long as we know of a woman been beaten in our community and we don't do anything about it, we're not really men. So if it's happening in your backyard, in your community, you must band together as good men and go talk to that man and say, you stop that. See, we're sort of into this, somebody's gonna take care of it. The policeman or the probation officer or the parole officer or somebody. No, we must take responsibility, I feel. For a woman to feel all alone and just wondering what to do, that's a sign to us that this is wrong and that we must put our minds together. Like Sitting Bull said, you live not too far from here, from where I'm living now, South Dakota. And let's put our minds together to see what we can do for the children. I really love those words. I feel that's what we must do. Put our minds together to see what we can do from the babies from their mothers being violated. What can we do? Beautiful. I'm really sorry to, the one that asked this question. Because that's what it's going to take, and I know it's not going to stop it right now. That's what makes me feel sorry right now. That we must realign ourselves as a society of men to say there's zero tolerance against striking women. There's zero tolerance to raping women. That we must do that as a society. Yeah.
Thank you, Elder. Thank you for your words. I appreciate it. So I'm just gonna do my quick plug right now so we can get one more question in before we go. The UBC Learning Circle has a couple different sessions coming up in the coming weeks, including a session next week with Denise on gathering our medicine. Following that into May, we're going to have Melanie Rivers come and join us along with Leah Walker and talk about art therapy. And finally, we're going to have a speaker series in collaboration with with URSI here at UBC to discuss a range of topics, including COVID, generally focused on COVID-19 risks, responses, and resilience. So I'm really excited about that series and hope that you guys will all join me. Elder, before we go, I've got one last question for you. And that is from Robin Ward, who asks if you could please repeat the 3 areas of health for all of us to try to focus on in this time, so that they can make a health plan for it. If you could remember back at the beginning.
Yes, because this is, this has become my my guidelines. There's 3 areas look after. In healing workers only, 3 areas look after. We're human beings. First off, I'll go with the mind. We must free ourselves of negative messages that were put in our mind. Like at one time I grew up thinking I'm an Indian and I'm a stupid Indian. Then I grew up hearing lazy Indian, drunken Indian. That impacted my mind. I had to wash my brain out of those filthy words that put me down because I'm Indigenous. See, that was a mental thing for me. It caused mental stress. I beat myself up. So I had to literally free myself from those messages. That's with the mind. We all make mistakes in communication, let's say with our children or our loved ones. That becomes a mental health issue because we say, oh, I shouldn't have done that, and you're tossing and turning at night. Why did I say that to my son? Yeah, it becomes a mental health issue. So we need to pay attention to this wonderful computer here. this mind, and keep it clear as we possibly can. So every mistake we make from, let's say from here on, we make a pact here to everybody that's listening. When we make a mistake, we're going to address it in the safest, best way possible for our own mental health and for the mental health of the people who live with us. So we take care of our mind. To heal your mind, like I say, as soon as you start talking about something that's weak with you, 50% of the stress leaves your body, then you may have enough energy to deal with that specific problem that's in your mind. The elders in the West Coast say, yuck with it, kuya, free yourself, put it down. Put what down? The negativity that come to your brain. Women get put down all over the world by men. They must take that out and put it down too. So we look after our mental health by talking, by reading positive material, listening to positive music, burning medicine like that fungus, go into your brain, help your brain. Now the healing work for the body, like I've had massage therapy, I've had brushing with cedar, with feathers, with hands to help my body, to get negativity out of my body. When people struck me like that, across my ears and my face, as a child, that put negativity in my body. So I started walking like this. I'm hunched over. I'm exaggerating it now, but I'd be hunched over. And I literally got stomach ulcers in my stomach because of the violence that was inflicted on my body, because it got to my mind. So we get massage, we do saunas or sweats, we run and sweat, we do things for our body, keep it nice and clean, get that nice lavender smell and stuff for our body. And the biggest thing for me, biggest medicine now, is to get hugs from little children to where their arms are shaking, like my granddaughters. When they do that, that's medicine for me, for my body, for my mind. So we take care of that body. I always tell people, sit like an eagle. Don't be slouched over, because that's how you're going to walk when you get to be old like Gerry. You don't want to walk like that. Sit like an eagle, sit straight. Helps your breathing, but take care of the body. Good food. You are what you eat. Take care of that body. Then the third area is the spirit. And remember, that's what holds your body together. And for when your spirit is really strong, doesn't matter what the weather is, how many mosquitoes or whatever, the virus is here, you still want to live. You have this resilience and no quit in you. You want to be here. You want to participate in the life. You want to celebrate. You want to weep. You want to laugh. You want to sing. You want to dance. And your spirit is good. You want to be successful at everything you do. Washing dishes, sweeping the floor, cooking, working, being an uncle, being an auntie, being a grandparent, being a dad, being a brother, all those things. You want to be successful. You want to be good at it. That's a sign of a really healthy spirit when you walk around like this. Then the third indicator of a spirit, know you're doing good, is that you're kind. People could see it in your eyes. There's no anger, fear, or depression there. You're kind, and people want to be with you. When they see you come in, they laugh and they call you over. Come on. That happened to me many times. I believe because I'm kind. I followed that teaching my granny. Squisha kal kalut apa. Don't you say mean words to people. Always ama kalut. She says good words. I follow the teaching. People laugh when they see me because it's joy. Some of them, or they just see me. Oh, come on. Because my spirit is good. So those are the three areas. You notice I didn't say emotions. Because the emotions are because of what happens to our mind, or our body, or our spirit. That's feelings moving around in our realm. Like when my granddaughter squeezes me and her point of her hands are shaking, in my realm, it's all goodness. That's pure love. You know, but if somebody strikes me or gives me the snake eyes, it goes into my body. And my responsibility is to get it out of there. I tell people, you don't want to walk around. You don't want your grandchildren, your relatives to look in you in the eye and see anger there, because they'll get afraid of you. You don't want them to look you in the eye and see fear there, because they'll be afraid too. You especially don't want them to see depression in your eyes, because it'll make them sad. And we get fear, angry, or depressed because we get traumatized in our mind or our body. And that's when they say, free yourself. Use the medicines. Brush yourself off. Shake it off. Dance. Do things to take care of that mind, that body, and that spirit. That's what's required of us. Some people love to talk about emotions. I know they're real because I just talked about love. And I've seen the arrogance of a sexual abuser come after Gerry. That caused a lot of emotion, negative emotions in me. But you know what's stronger than that? It's the love of friends and relatives. That abuser has no power that can beat love from your friends and relatives for you. So you remember that, you do that for other people.
Hajka Elder, I appreciate it, as always. So that brings us right to the end of our time here today. To everybody that I couldn't get around to your questions, I apologize. But I really appreciate all of the questions that came in, and I hope that what we were able to chat to today was good for everybody else. So for today, again, thank you very much, Elder Gerry. I appreciate it every time we get to chat, and I'm a little bit sad that we won't be able to connect again this summer, but there'll be next year. It's important for all of us to look after one another and stay safe and healthy during this time. So thank you all very much. And until next week, bye now.